during this very important debate today. My constituent Emma contacted me about the experience of her family when her 17-year-old daughter Ruby became ill with T-cell lymphoma, an aggressive form of blood cancer. Ruby passed away in May 2020, aged just 18. I'm speaking today for Ruby, for my constituent Helena, who is currently going through cancer treatment, whose mum Catherine has been in touch, and for every other family in Dulwich and West Norwood facing a diagnosis of childhood cancer. Ruby and her family really struggled to get a diagnosis after she became ill. She had 6 GP visits, while her family became increasingly concerned before a GP referred her for the hospital tests, which revealed that she had a 9-centimetre tumour in her chest. By the 3rd GP visit, Emma had Googled Ruby's symptoms: a very swollen face, shoulder pain, tiredness and odd bruising to her abdomen. And she asked the GP whether Ruby could have a cancerous tumour obstructing her vena cava. She was told not in one so young, and was made to feel that she was an over-anxious parent. But that is exactly what Ruby had. It took a further 3 GP appointments before she was referred for tests. Ruby's family now live with the additional pain of knowing that an earlier diagnosis might have saved her, and they are calling for better training for GPs in spotting cancer in children and young people, and better practice in listening to and taking seriously the concerns of parents. Improvements in both of these areas would increase early diagnosis with life-saving consequences. Ruby had 10 months of gruelling cancer treatment, and her mum highlights the lack of funding for research or progress in developing new treatments. The drugs used to treat Ruby's cancer were approved in the 1950s, 1960s and 1980s. They have terrible side effects and long-lasting health consequences for children who survive their cancer. Ruby's family also highlight the impact that a childhood cancer diagnosis has on the wider family and the lack of support that is available. Often at least one parent has to give up work, and there are additional costs associated with supporting cancer treatment, estimated to be an average of £600 a month. Ruby was a remarkable young woman. She believed that the most important thing in the world was to be kind and to speak out against injustice and unkindness. Her motto was "Live kindly, live loudly," and her family is seeking to keep Ruby's memory alive by raising £500,000, roughly what the NHS spent in treating Ruby's cancer, for the Children's Cancer and Leukaemia Group. I want to recognise and encourage this vitally important and inspirational work. But I also want to call on the government to recognise the avoidable suffering that families like Ruby's face when a precious child or young person receives a cancer diagnosis, and to commit to the change that is needed: better training, more research and additional support for children and their families to ease their suffering at this most difficult of times.
Derek Thomas.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And can I start by saying I chair the All Party Group for Brain